Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Iron's Spells and Spellbooks. Let's get into the mid-game, which if you don't know what that means, that more or less means you're going to be going into the Nether, because that's where a lot of good materials as well as some more exploration is going to be based. But there are things that you're going to need in order to prepare for that, and I recommend getting yourself kind of like this mid-tier armor, Scarecrow armor. So if I take this off, and I put on the Scarecrow armor, I then look kind of like a Scarecrow. It's pretty darn cool. It is made basically with, in this case, a leather cap, plus some arcane cloth and a carved pumpkin. The arcane cloth is the new thing. It can be used to make several things, but in this case, it's just any piece of wool plus 8 arcane essence. So arcane essence is a relatively common find in magical structures and mobs, as well as drops. So it's something that you should, find regularly, though it's only if you end up going looking for it. Now there are other things like the Scarecrow. Coat in this case requires more cloth. There's no leather except for just a couple pieces in the middle. So you will need some of the other equipment for it. But it gives you a little bit better protection. We've got 3, 8, 6, and 3 instead of 2, 5, 6, and 2. Plus it gives you a lot more mana. 75 mana per piece of armor. So if you noticed before, I was at 300. Now I'm at 500. That definitely increases my magical casting ability a lot. So next thing you're going to want to do is make yourself either an Apprentice or an Enchanted Spellbook. Now they have different benefits and different costs to make these. It's up to you as to what you have available to you as well as what you would prefer. Now in this case the Apprentices has less spell slots, only 8 of them, but it is more than your like Iron Tome, for example, which comes with, what is it, 5, 6 spell slots. So it increases your spell slots by a couple, which you probably have more spells at this point. And it has a cast time reduction. You probably noticed when I cast some of these spells, it takes me a second or two for some of them. It will reduce that and give me more maximum mana. If I go to just an Enchanted Spellbook, it just goes straight for maximum mana. So if you're not worried about the recast time reduction, but you do want the extra mana, and you want a couple extra spell slots, go for the Enchanted Spellbook. Now here's the difference though, the biggest one, and that's the cost. The Apprentice Spellbook requires gold, arcane essence, and a new item called Hogskin. These are dropped from hoglins in the Nether. Now if you want to go for the Enchanted Spellbook, that's going to be a bit more pricey. You're going to need some kind of enchanted book, 4 Hogskin, 2 diamonds, and 2 arcane cloth. So it is a bit more pricey, but it's also going to give you more mana and more spell slots. And considering that our regular flimsy journal and the ironbound tome does not give you any mana bonuses, or any bonuses for that matter at all, either of these is a welcome addition. So if I take this out, you'll notice I've got all these extra slots, but nothing's in there. So I will want to be sure to take all of these out and switch them to my new book. There we go, and with that I now have a new book with a lot more spells. And you probably see on the bottom left there, I've got a bunch to choose from. I haven't maxed it out, but I do have several. So while my polar bear friend just constantly does damage to these dummies because I happen to hit one of them, yeah, it's going to be around for a couple more minutes. But you can now see that I have a lot more spells to choose from, and I can do this on the fly just by pressing the R key, and then I can use something else to attack with when I'm ready to, and go from there. So that Greybeard staff, it is fantastic. It is lovely. I am very pleased to have that as an item. Just by right-clicking with any spell equipped is how you end up using it. So to give an example, I just right-click and it's casting the spell that I currently have equipped with those bonuses that the spell staff has. And I can have it in my offhand as well. So I can fight things with a sword and a spell staff and still do this just by right-clicking and casting it that way. And you'll notice that this is just a regular iron sword. There's nothing on it, so I was able to cast that fire spell because I have this in my offhand. But there's another staff at this point that you probably want to look into, and that's an Artificer's Cane. This is a little bit different. It's going to have some benefits that might be similar, but not the same. You've got the plus 10% spell power, but this one has a cooldown reduction and a cast time reduction. So if you're just tired of running out of, or just waiting for your big spells to come back online, that's the way to go if you've got more than enough mana. But if you want more mana, then you probably want to stick with the Greybeard staff. Either one's going to be the same, just the Artificer's Cane also does a tiniest bit more attack damage. Yes, you can use them as weapons, but it's not really worth it. But in order to make one of these, it will require some crimson planks, an amethyst shard, and a couple gold ingots. So I have a ring of mana. So one of the reasons why I've got so much mana to begin with is because of this ring, which gives me an extra 100 mana on top of the mana I'm getting from the Enchanted Spellbook and all of my armor. So how do I make one of these? With arcane ingots and a diamond. The arcane ingots are made by surrounding a bunch of arcane essence around one of many vanilla ingot types, and you'll end up getting one of those that you can use for that ring. And can I use a second one? Why, yes. Yes, you can. So you could double up, and you can actually make yourself get an extra 200 mana just by wearing these rings. Now, there's also another way of doing things that can further enhance your spellbook. Now, if you're not happy with the number of slots, let's say that you've got so many spells that you don't know what to do with, because there is a ton of spells. There's like 6 pages of spells on the side here for this. Okay, other things that you can potentially do, and that is going to be a scroll forge. This here is pretty cool. It is consisting of a bit of crying obsidian, so you will have had to have done some exploration in order to find some of this laying around in multiple different structures or ruins or things like that. Plus some polished deep slate will make this scroll forge. Upon right-clicking it, it looks like it's some sort of brewing stand with paper. Something along those lines is accurate, but you're going to want to put some kind of ink that you may have found throughout the world, plus some paper that you will likely have either pillaged or grown yourself, and some kind of focus item in the far right. In this case, I'm going to put in a Divine Pearl. I will explain more about the focus in a moment. Right now, just know that once you have these items in here, it then gives you the option of making some spells, assuming that you have the right level of ink in order to do so, as well as, of course, the right focus for this scroll forge. And this allows you to create spells instead of finding them out in the world. So the ink types, there's several kinds, and this is really where it starts to come into play. There is common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. And none of those are actually going to be craftable. You can only get them from, this is an apothecarist. This isn't just a piglin or anything like that. It's a specific magical mob. But basically there's like an archevoker, the cryomancer. Any of these guys will drop them, but you may also find them in different structures that are out in the world, and you're going to want to keep those for a lot of different reasons. Specifically, in this case, just so you can make yourself some more spells, or even upgrade them later on. So let's go with common ink, the most common thing that you're going to end up finding. You'll notice that I can get down here to Divine Smite, and then it's got 3 things that I have no idea what they are. So if I change that ink out to, let's say, epic ink, I then have options all the way down to the bottom. I can choose any of them. So some of the spells will require specific ink tiers in order to be able to be crafted. So you will have to make sure that you have the right ink in there in order to get it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to craft everything. So let's try this with 1 common ink. I'm going to make a heal spell, which if you hover over the words, it tells you what they do. If you hover over this thing, it doesn't at all. So make sure you're hovering over the words. But if I choose this, cast infuse yourself with holy energy and immediately regain health. Sounds great. There's the level 1 healing scroll. Done. And it uses up that ink permanently. Now, if I use something like legendary ink and do this, it's level 10. So dependent on the ink that you use, in this case, let's go with just, what is this, uncommon ink. And I choose this. It's level 4. So each one will make a different level scroll. Now there are ways of actually leveling up your spells as they are beyond this, so don't think that this is the end of it, like you have to craft to start with. It just makes it a lot easier and probably less expensive in the end if you can do this. So let's go with this. 9.9 healing, 60 mana cost, and a 25-second cooldown. Alright, that's not bad. I'll take that. Then I was thinking, all right, well, I'll put one in here that's level 4, and you know what? I've got this level 1 in here. Let's put this in here too. Oh, it doesn't let you do it. So you can't double up on there. Don't think that you'd be able to, like, get past the the cooldowns and stuff like that by having multiple versions of the same spell. Doesn't quite let you. So, continuing on with the Scroll Forge, we're talking about focuses. Those are representative of the different schools of magic. No, don't think Hogwarts or anything like that. This is more along the lines of just fire, ice, lightning, divine or holy. Then you've got ender, blood, evocation, nature, and even eldritch, which is kind of like this secret school that isn't really official. It's kind of off the books. But more or less, if you take any of these items here, you can then make yourself some of those scrolls that you're looking for, which you'll probably need these ingredients for other stuff as well. But obviously blaze rods you're getting from blazes. Frozen bones, if you look this up, they're dropped from strays. Bottles of lightning are very challenging, but there are ways of getting this with this mod installed, making it simpler, and that is to use an empty bottle on a charged creeper to obtain a bottle of lightning, which, yeah, makes it really difficult. But if you do find a lightning bolt spell scroll, then you should be able to make your own charged creepers. Continuing on with the Divine Pearl, it's just amethyst and gold ingot crafted together. Ender Pearls, well, they drop for Endermen. Blood Vials are a little bit more interesting. You will have to have either a cauldron or an Alchemist Cauldron. In this case, I'm just going to say a regular cauldron, and have to heat it up. Like here it says, by heating up a Minecraft cauldron with a campfire below, or by using an Alchemist Cauldron, mobs placed inside can be cooked for blood. Alternately, so can you. Or at least that's what it is for previous versions. In this version, I believe you're going to have to find yourself some mobs to push in there. So have fun with your nitwit villagers, maybe? So if you can get a zombie to actually fall into your cauldron and perhaps stay there long enough to donate some of its bodily fluids, then you should be able to get yourself some blood for that blood focus. You might have to do it a few times, and you'll know that it's starting to work when your water has started turning a little bit darker, and then you'll end up getting yourself some blood vials. There we go, I just got another one there, and you notice that the water got a bit lighter. So it may take several mobs in order to do so, and don't be afraid to have, if you've got like a trapdoor or something in place, it actually sharing the block so that they don't get caught on the lip of this cauldron in order to do so. Continuing on, emeralds are for evocation, then poisonous potatoes are for nature. And of course there's an eldritch manuscript, but you'll need a bit of ancient knowledge as well as an echo shard for that, all of which can be found down in the ancient cities deep underground. And these are just the focuses for those, and you will need to know that at some point, but not to worry, it actually is shared in your guidebook should you actually need that information, specifically under the Schools of Magic topic. But I haven't really talked about the Alchemist Cauldron yet, and honestly, that's going to be the next thing I do talk about. It's made from some iron, a cauldron, and arcane essence, as well as cinder essence. So if you do want one of these as opposed to a regular cauldron with a campfire underneath, because the Alchemist Cauldron doesn't need that, you can now make it with this. Now the cinder essence is a special drop from mobs only found in the Nether. They are called Ancient Knights, and they are found in ancient battlegrounds, which will be covered with these armor piles. When you go to harvest one of these armor piles, it will spawn a mob that is basically animating this suit of scrapped armor, and it will start attacking you. These are very dangerous foes. You should be very cautious and be sure to have the option of retreat if you're not prepared for them. But they will have a potential to drop some really good stuff. They could drop a valuable decrepit flamberge, cinder essence, which would be required for this, among many other things. It's kind of going to be required, and netherite scraps, which, you know, that doesn't hurt. I'm not going to spoil a bunch of this stuff for you. I am going to try and do instructions without taking you to all these wonderful, lovely, cool places that are out in the world as much as I can, just so that it doesn't ruin the fun and interest and intrigue of you finding it for yourself for the first time. So why else would I want an Alchemist Cauldron besides the simplicity of not having a campfire underneath? Well, this is essentially the same as a brewing stand, but instead of 3 bottles of whatever potion comes out, it will make 4. So for example, if I have some netherwort and I right click on here, it will put the netherwort in there. There we go. I'll go into survival mode so I'm not actually just duplicating stuff. I can toss in a magma cream next. Actually not toss, right click. If you toss things in there, it won't really function properly. And from this going to an awkward potion, it then makes a fire resistance potion, which then you can also enhance further with redstone and so on. But if I grab these bottles here, you'll notice that I've got no sign of any potions in my inventory. I might have a bunch of ink bottles, but that's about it. Here we go. So it should show up on here. I have 4 potions of fire resistance that I was able to get from that instead of 3, so it makes your potions go a lot longer. Now, of course, you can start just bottling in water, or you can use a bucket and just dump it all in at once. Now, that's not all, though. There are some new brews that you can make from this, specifically Hogskin, which if you take a couple potions of healing, like this one here, I've got a potion of instant health 2. I've got 2 of those, plus a wooden log. But if I basically put this in here, which actually I can't because I'm trying to drink it, what you need to do is remove enough that you can put it in there. So I've taken out 2 bottles of water, then I'm putting in 2 bottles of the instant healing 2, then I'm going to put in this log, and it will start turning itself into this new potion. There we go. Now taking this bottle here, I get an Hogskin elixir, which used up both of those healing 2 potions in the process, which that will give you 20% damage reduction for 45 seconds. Now there's another one, Hogskin 4, which is 30% damage reduction, and for 1.5 minutes. That requires 2 Hogskin elixirs and an amethyst shard being inserted into there, so make sure that it's only half full at best before you start adding in that amethyst shard, or else it won't work. And then there's a new one, an Instant Health 3 potion, which heals you even more than the Instant Health 2. It takes 4 of those, so the entire cauldron will have to consist of Potion of Healing Instant Health 2, plus an Amethyst Shard in there. And then there's these new things here. This is fun. Invisibility elixirs. This is true invisibility, which means everything on your person goes invisible. Your armor, all of it. So you don't need to worry quite so much about that. There's a regular one, which requires regular potions of invisibility plus a shriving stone, which is some kind of iron plus raw iron and an amethyst shard. This is kind of like a cleansing item in most cases, and it's very appropriate for an invisibility elixir in my mind. But then there's a greater one, which then you take your regular invisibility, add an amethyst cluster, and it will then make a greater version, which will just last that much longer. Instead of 15 seconds, it'll be 40. Lastly, we've got an evasion elixir, which is similar to the Ender, like the Endermen that teleport around when you shoot them with some kind of ranged weapon. It's like that is what your evasion is. And this requires an Ender Pearl plus some instant mana 3 potions, which if you're not familiar with those, it's an awkward potion plus arcane essence will make instant mana, which then you can use to make instant mana 2 and instant mana 3 and then instant mana 4. So you can also make these in a brewing stand, but it's best to get the most output that you can from the Alchemist Cauldron, because some of them will require 4 of them, which you can't then make in a brewing stand. Okay, next, and what might be considered part of late game at this point. So late game is going to either start now, in my mind, or it's going to be just after you make one of these, because honestly you could use this in the mid game as well, because the recipe for making an arcane anvil isn't that bad. It's polished deep slate, an anvil, diamond, and 4 blocks of amethyst. So feasibly you could make one earlier on, and you can use it to some extent in the mid-game as well in my mind. But if you'd like to learn more about it, or learn more about the end-game part of this, you'll have to tune in next time. So if you'd like to see more videos like this, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on Twitch, where we stream regularly, or here on YouTube next time. Bye.